Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to continue our journey through Genesis and we're going to learn about Joseph and his brothers. And here's the story. Jacob lived with his family in a place called Canaan. He had many sons. One of Jacob's younger sons was named Joseph. Jacob spent more time with Joseph than with his other sons. He even had a special coat made for Joseph. It seemed to Joseph's brothers that their father loved Joseph more than he loved them. They felt sad and angry. One night, Joseph had a dream. The next morning, he couldn't wait to tell everyone about it. I dreamed we were all in the field tying stems of grain together. Suddenly, I couldn't believe my eyes. Your grain made a circle around mine, and they bent over. You were bowing down to me. Isn't that exciting? Exclaimed Joseph. Our grain did what? They laughed. Why do you think we would bow down to you like you were some kind of king? The brothers said angrily. Joseph hung his head and walked away slowly and sadly. The next night, Joseph had another dream. He excitedly told everyone about it in the morning. I had an even better dream last night. I looked up into the sky and there I was. I saw the sun, the moon, and stars bow down to me. Isn't that amazing? He said. This time his father was listening. Jacob was angry with Joseph and said, "Why do you think your mother and I would stand next to your brothers and bow down to you as if you were a king? I don't like the strange dreams you are having. They will never come true." Now his brothers and his father were really mad at him. Luckily for Joseph, Jacob decided to send his brothers off with the sheep for a while. Later, Jacob sent Joseph to find out how Joseph's brothers were doing with the sheep. As he was getting near them, his brothers saw him coming. "Here comes our dreaming brother. Let's get rid of him," they planned. They grabbed Joseph and threw him into a pit. Ouch! The rocks at the bottom of the pit were hard and sharp. "God, why are they doing this to me?" prayed Joseph. A group of traders walked by on their way to Egypt. The brothers thought they'd get rid of Joseph once and for all. They sold Joseph to the traders and watched as he was taken away. Now, that's the end of this story, but have you ever had an exciting dream? What was it about? How did it make you feel? Maybe you can talk to your family about that this week. See you next week.
Hey, good morning.
Hello.
All right, guys, what story did we hear about today? Can you remember what we talked about?
Joseph and his brothers.
Joseph and his brothers. Jane, you want to show the picture that you colored? And Oliver, will you show the picture you colored? What kind of coat did Joseph have?
A special rainbow.
Rainbow, just kind of like your skirt. You want to show all the colors in your skirt? Woo! So Joseph had a very colorful coat. And Oliver, do you remember, did he have a lot of sisters?
Brothers.
Yeah, a lot of brothers.
Brothers.
And what did he tell the brothers? What did he tell them about? What kind of thing did he have that he told them about? Yes.
I have a dream where you all were bowing to me.
Do you think the brothers were happy about that?
They did not care for it.
No. So they kind of got back at him. They were jealous. So today we made a coat with many colors. That's something you can do at home. You can if you don't have this picture in your packets, you can just get a piece of paper and draw a coat of many colors. That was Joseph and his brothers. And we used all kinds of colors. Jane, didn't we? What colors are on there? What color is that? There's too many to tell. We have purple and orange and yellow and red and green and pink. So that's one thing you can do to remind yourself of the story is draw a picture of a coat of many colors. Now the other part of the story, besides his very colorful coat that made his brothers jealous, was his dreams, right? And
and that his father liked him more.
Yeah, but that was shown by the coat, partly, in the special treatment. So what is a dream? Can you show me a picture of a dream you've had?
Oh.
Is it inside? Do you want to go get it? Or show
Yeah.
Jane's? Jane, and we can draw a picture of the dream.
Yeah, I can. There's not enough room in there, so I just had to draw me, my little sister. But even though we don't have a little sister in real life, and my brother.
Yeah, you draw a picture of when you had a dream of you guys taking a trip. And one thing you can do at home is put the cotton balls.
Not a trip.
Not a trip.
A where the polar bears live to deliver a message for on Girlfriend Day for his girlfriend bear.
Oh, so you guys took a trip to where the polar bears live and to deliver a message for Girlfriend Day. That is quite a dream. So we have the cotton balls that can go around your picture of your dream. If you think about a time that you had a dream that was really vivid, just like Joseph had really vivid dreams that he shared because he remembered them so much. Oliver, what's a time that you had a dream that would get you remembered? Can you show?
I was having a dream about unicorns versus dragons.
Unicorns versus dragons. Oh no, you got Elsa. So that is a dream that you might remember. How did it make you feel?
It made me feel happy.
Happy?
Happy.
Yeah?
I got to ride on it.
All right, well that is the story. Joseph and his brothers, he had a really amazing rainbow coat. His brothers got jealous after he told them about his dreams. And so if you all at home want to draw your dreams as part of an activity today, you can get a piece of paper and draw down a dream you remember. Okay, let's say a prayer. Hands together. Dear God.
Dear God.
Dear God,
Thank you for being with us
Thank you for being with us
every day,
every day.
whether good or bad.
whether good or bad.
Amen.
Amen.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good morning. Happy to see you guys. Hope you had a great week. I don't know about you, but this week flew by and we're back together again, which makes me happy. So you've heard the Bible story and we're going to jump into it now. One thing I was curious about is, do you have any brothers or sisters? I grew up with a brother. And sometimes, I have to share, my brother was really, really good at running. That was his gift, super fast. And Mom and Dad would spend a lot of time at track meets. I used to feel a little jealous that he got all the attention and I didn't. But I bet that my brother sometimes felt jealous of me when I got Mom and Dad's attention. So it's kind of interesting how it's very easy for us to feel jealous of our brothers and sisters because we all want our moms and dads' attention. So let's get into our story today. So we learned about, or you heard about, a boy named Joseph. Joseph was 17, and in Bible times that was considered a man. A little different than how we are now. So Joseph had brothers. Do you remember how many? He had 11 older brothers. Do you remember what his job was? He and his brothers, their family, were shepherds. And the boys would take over the business of the father back then. So their father was a shepherd, so they all became shepherds. And we learned that Joseph had some gifts, some talents. One of them was his dreams. He had interesting dreams. And the second was he told the truth. So we need to look at their family a little bit. So there were a lot of children, right? So Bible times things were different. It was very long ago. And Joseph's father had children with 4 different women. So there were different moms, and the moms wanted their sons to be the favorite, and there was jealousy. So usually the oldest son inherited the most and took over for the father, and then the rest was divided amongst all the other sons. But something interesting in this story, I don't know if you picked up on it or not, but the father favored or loved one of the sons more than the others, and it was Joseph, his youngest. So we learned that Joseph had a special coat. It was richly decorated, and back then, people didn't have closets full of clothes. You just had a few items. So having this jacket, this richly decorated jacket or coat that went all the way to the ground, that was very colorful and expensive, showed that Dad loved Joseph more than the others. So there was jealousy. So there's even a story. Within the story itself, there was even a time when it shares that Joseph tattled on his brothers making poor choices. We don't know what they were, but we know that Joseph told his dad the truth about what happened. Do you think his brothers liked that? So he got them in trouble, and then their dad loved him best, so there was a lot of jealousy. So let's jump into one of his dreams. I'm going to read it just to make sure. So this was in verse 9. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Verse 5. I jumped to the second one. We're going to do the first one. So verse 5. And it says, I'm reading from my Bible, that Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field. What's a sheaf of grain? Well, we're not farmers, so sometimes we don't know the examples they're showing, but this is one of the pages that went home in the different packets. You see these yellow? If you can imagine those as green when they were grass growing and they cut it down and grass dries out, right? This is grain, so maybe it's rye, maybe it's wheat, but anyway, it dries out and turns this yellow color. So they tie it while it's still green, that's what those dark browns are, and they tie a certain amount of it, and it's easier to store it that way, it's easier to move it that way, but they call it a sheaf. Just kind of like nowadays, have you ever been on a drive or around Halloween time we get those bales of straw or hay, but when you're driving, have you ever seen those round, rolled up, and they cover them with white plastic like big marshmallows in fields? That's how we store grain now. Back then, they didn't have tractors and things to move heavy things. They just had their arms. So they would tie up the grain in kind of easy to carry things. So anyway, let's get back to the dream. So now we know what the sheaves of grain are. When suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. So, Joseph's stood upright and the others bowed down to him. Do you think the brothers liked that idea of bowing down to their little brother? No. And then there was the next dream. Do you remember about the other dream? Let's see, that's in verse 9. I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. So the 11 stars would be his brothers, right? And the sun and the moon, maybe his mom and dad. Back then, even now, adults don't bow down to children, right? So when his father heard, as well as his brothers, when they all heard the story, he rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" He didn't believe him. His brothers were jealous again. Okay. So then what happens? Do you remember what happens next? Well, remember, since his family are shepherds, it's not like they just have a farm and the animals can graze right there. They have to travel great distances to find enough food for the animals. And I'm assuming they're sheep. They don't tell. That's where we're going to go with their sheep. So the brothers took the sheep and headed to an area for the sheep to eat, okay? And let's see what happens next. And Joseph's dad said, "As you know, your brothers are grazing the flock," so the sheep, "near Shechem." It's a town. "Come, I'm going to send you to them." And Joseph said, "Okay, Dad, I'll go." Very well. So his dad said to him, "Go and see if all is well with your brothers, and with all the flocks, and bring word back to me. So he's asking Joseph again to go, and if his brothers aren't doing well, come back and tattle on them and tell on them. So it's interesting that Joseph has demonstrated that he'll always tell the truth to his dad. But it's kind of hard for Joseph. It had to be hard for him because his dad is making the brothers hate him even more. Okay, do you know what happens next? Well, let's see. So, Joseph goes to where they're supposed to be, but they're not there. So a man says, oh, they moved to the next area. So Joseph goes. And guess what happens? This is verse 18. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan, which is another town. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Can you imagine? Joseph's just doing what his dad's asked him to do. And his brothers are so jealous and so angry that they want to get rid of him. Okay, here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. Come on, now let's kill him and throw him in one of these cisterns. So a cistern is a well. So think of a round, deep hole. And we'll say that a ferocious animal devoured him. And then we'll see what comes of his dreams. Now, Joseph, his oldest brother, is named Reuben. And Reuben heard this, and he tried to rescue him from their hands. He said, let's not take his life. He said, so let's not kill him. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern, so into the big well, here in the desert, but don't lay a hand on him. Well, does that sound nice? Like Reuben's trying to be nice? Well, let's see. Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So Reuben, it sounds like, was going to sneak back, get Joseph up out of the well, and take him home to his father. Don't know that he was doing it because he loved Joseph. But wow, what would the father do if Reuben rescued his beloved son Joseph and brought him back? Do you think Reuben would be favored? So now there's something interesting here. We don't know where Reuben went, but all of a sudden he wasn't there. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they took off his robe, they stripped him of his robe, and they took him and threw him in the well. The well was empty as there was no water in it. And guess what they did? You can imagine Joseph was probably scared and crying for help, like crying out to them, help me, please, right? They sat down to eat. So they had their meal right next to Joseph in a well. And they looked up and they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites. So they saw a bunch of camels walking along with people riding them, and they had all kinds of treasures. There were spices and balms and myrrh, and they were on their way down to Egypt. So they were traders. So their job was to move things from one place to another and sell it. So one of Joseph's brothers is named Judah. And Judah said to his brothers, what will we gain if we kill our brother and cover it up? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, to the traders, and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. And they agreed. But they didn't kill him. Instead, they sold him to someone, to this caravan. This caravan was heading to Egypt, so Joseph was going to be sold into slavery. So they didn't kill their brother quickly. They sent him to a life of slavery. And what did they do it for? They sold him for 20 shekels of silver. For me, I don't know about you, but it's hard to imagine hating someone so much that you spent all your days with, and you knew his mother, and ultimately you were going to break your father's heart, right? I can't imagine hating someone so much that you would send them to slavery. Can you? No. So there's a lot in this story for us. We want to strive and try to be good brothers and sisters, right? We want to try not to be jealous. Like when we feel that jealousy, to try to bring it back to, I'm happy that my brother or sister has this gift, but I have gifts too, and my mom and dad love me also. And I will share with you that I don't think Joseph's dad did a good job of loving all of his children. And I can promise you right now that your mom and your dad love you and your brothers and sisters very much. So that's what we've learned from here, that Joseph always told the truth. And his gift was dreams and sharing his dreams. And where it should have been in his family where he felt safe and loved to do so, it wasn't. And when we let jealousy come into our hearts and start letting it fester there till we hate someone, we can do terrible, terrible things. God does not want that for you. God does not want that for me. God is love. God wants us to love other people, see the goodness in them, see their gifts. And his example he sent to us was Jesus. Jesus was kind and loving, and Jesus had gifts, and Jesus saw the good in everyone. Not easy to do, but that's what we're supposed to strive to do. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and that was our Bible story for today. We dug a little deeper trying to understand what we were being told. So let's go ahead and close in prayer, so just get comfy. I'm going to close my eyes so I can concentrate, okay? Dear God, thank you for this story you shared with us today. Thank you for letting us know that moms and dads love us, and thank you for giving us each different gifts. And please give us patience and love when we're dealing with our brothers and sisters. It's not always easy, but we know you love them and you love us. So hopefully we can show some love for each other this week. Please keep us safe this week, and we look forward to being together again next week. In your name we pray. Amen. Bye.